Hi guys, and welcome to another FPL video. Today guys, I'm going to be giving you the points predictor for the upcoming game week 2 of FPL, and there's a very few interesting games coming up this weekend. You've got Chelsea against Spurs, which is from a neutral perspective very interesting. Maybe not so much from having certain FPL assets. It might not be the best game for you guys to have players from either Chelsea or Spurs for that one, but there's also some other interesting games. Liverpool and City playing their first home games of the season and having very favourable fixtures. Liverpool at home to Palace on Monday night, and City at home to Bournemouth at 3 o'clock on Saturday. And what we're going to do for this point predictor video is I'm going to give you guys a goalkeeper, a defender, 2 midfielders and 2 forwards that I think can score very well this weekend. And when we go to do the point predictor for game week 3 the following week, we'll have a look back at how we did for my point predictor for this week and see how we got on with our predictions. What I would class as a good prediction would be anyone that I think can get a return, whether it be a defensive return with a clean sheet, or potentially attacking as well, and then obviously attacking players getting a return as well in the form of a goal or an assist. So let's get off into the first 2 players. I'm going to give you guys the goalkeeper and the defender, my 2 choices for that lineup for this weekend. So in goal, I've gone with Edison, and defensive-wise, I've gone with Zinchenko, who now, of course, is at Arsenal, but the Premier League website is still keeping his Man City picture. They haven't changed it to his... They obviously haven't taken a picture of him yet in the Arsenal kit, so I've had to keep on the City kit from last season for him. But let's talk about Edison first. Their first home game of the season this weekend, coming up against newly promoted Bournemouth. They played West Ham last weekend. West Ham, outside of the traditional top 6, of course, were one of the better, best of the rest teams last season. I think they were the best of the rest last season out of all the teams available, apart from the top 6. And to go away their first game of the season, to come away with a win and also come away with a clean sheet was very good. He came away with a couple good saves as well, Edison. So when he was tested, he did well. A lot of people will say that Alisson could also potentially be another good option for this weekend. And usually, yes, I would agree with that. And I'm still confident that Liverpool can, certainly or should be getting a clean sheet against Palace this weekend. The thing that you'll have to say about Liverpool was that they weren't the best defensive wise. They looked a bit clumsy, at the back in that game against Fulham. And City looked very relaxed, very confident on the ball. And I would say that both of them at the same price. I think if you've already got Alisson in your team, there's no need to switch to Edison, but I think out of the 2 of them, the better one to have right now, the one's got the better fixtures long term as well. You don't just have to look at this upcoming weekend. It's always good to the long term. As you can see, even after that in game weeks 2 and in game weeks 3 and 4, City again still having pretty favourable fixtures. They've also got a game in game week 5 at home to Nottingham Forest. So some really nice home games. Their next 3 home games are Bournemouth home, Palace home, and Forest home, with that Newcastle away game in between those as well. So some very good fixtures long term, and also under 20% ownership as well. Very good pick. Zinchenko has also had a price rise now to 5.1 million. He got 12 points in that first game against Crystal Palace. He's got Leicester at home this upcoming weekend. They've got again a few more favourable fixtures against newly promoted teams as well to follow on from that. He was very good. He got obviously an attacking return from that fullback position. He was very high up the pitch in the game against Palace. If you were watching, certainly in that in the first half. The second half, he ran a little bit deeper in the match and didn't see through the whole 90 minutes. I think Kieran Tierney came out at one point, but there's no doubt that he's going to be the favoured, left back for Arsenal this season. And he did very well for them. He does have a lot of, he brings a lot of good leadership. Obviously, with him being the captain of Ukraine already as well. And he did very well. And obviously, a home game coming against Leicester this weekend. Leicester didn't look the best defensively wise against, against Brentford. So I think there's a lot again for him home to be good, not from just a defensive standpoint, but also we know that he can get attacking returns as he should in the past game. So I think he becomes a very good favourable option at his price, and also the form that he goes into for this game. Getting into the 2 midfielders that I've gone for Pascal Gross and I've gone for Mohamed. So the reason why I've gone with Pascal Gross is if you have a look at his returns in years gone by, last year I think he managed 2 goals and 5 assists. He's already matched in the first game of this season the amount of goals that he got the year before that, but he's had some great FPL returns in years gone by. I think in 2 separate seasons, I think he's been with Brighton now for about maybe like 4 or 5 years, and I know for a fact that in 2 of the seasons in years gone by, he has achieved over 100 points. So that game against United might be a sign of the old Pascal Gross coming back to form after a little bit of a disappointing last season. I can't remember if he had like too many injury issues last season or whatever, but he looked good against United. He was there to slot the ball home for those 2 goals. Very good positioning from him. for those 2 goals. 15 points in that game away to Manchester United. Comes in at a very reasonable price of $5.5 million. His ownership as well still remains very, very low. And another thing to consider as well, again, really, really good fixtures up and coming. Yes, they have City in about maybe 4 to 5 games time, but that's only their only really difficult game out of like the next 7 or something like that, you know. So they've got Newcastle up and coming this weekend at home, their first home game of the season. Obviously, based on him getting those 2 returns, he's definitely going to be a starter. And at just a 2.7% ownership, you wouldn't put it past him, you know, him getting an attacking return as well. It's always good, you know, to use players when they are in good form, and he's going to come off the back of that with a lot of confidence. And I think it's at that low ownership and the low price as well. You know, there's a lot of people that are going about, well, for $5.5 million, you can go and get yourself someone like Neto from Wolves, or personally, I think if you were looking between the 2 of them, I'd be rather going for Pascal Gross rather than Neto, because he's already going into that game with good confidence, and also not just a favourable fixture, not the easiest game, but certainly not the hardest game at the same time. But then even looking further on from that, again, still pretty favourable fixtures where they're not facing like a traditional top 6 team or anything like that. And then of course with Salah, becomes not just a great choice for this upcoming game, but also becomes a very, very good and favourable captain pick as well. A goal and assist against Fulham. Yeah, he looks to hit the ground running again this season. Of course, he always has the benefit as well of taking penalties for Liverpool as well. Home game coming up against Crystal Palace. Yes, they got United away, but then they have Bournemouth at home coming up. So again, fixtures long term still not too bad, of course, for Salah. And yeah, 12 points in that first game. An ownership of, I think he's got the 2nd highest ownership in the game, still behind Jesus, but ahead still of Haaland at 62.5% of the time recording this video. Yes, of course, very, very pricey at 13 million. But you know, he's going to be worth that because of the returns that he gets. So it's a real tight one between him and Haaland, who to go for the captaincy pick as well. But certainly you will want to have at least one of Haaland or Salah in your team for this upcoming weekend. And I think you just can't ignore him as a player that could potentially get great points, you know, for this upcoming weekend in that game against Crystal Palace. And then on to my 2 attackers as well. I have gone for Mitrovic, and of course as well I have gone for Haaland, who I have used as my transfer for this week. His price is not 5.1 million. I wish it was. It's actually 11.6 million now. Mitrovic as well also had a price rise, and I was really tempted before game week 1 to put Mitrovic in and not go with Jesus, because I mean his return of course in the Championship last season, something like 43 goals it was or something like that. I was thinking there is surely no way you can come from scoring 43 goals in the Championship and then do bad in the Premier League. You know, of course the Premier League is a better league than the Championship, but if you come off the back of scoring 43 goals in the Championship, it probably means that you're at least half decent Premier League level. That's the way that I look at it personally. But I backed out from it. I went with that high ownership that Jesus had, and Jesus to be fair had a good game against Palace, and I have no doubt he'll play well this weekend against Leicester as well. But to be fair, Mitrovic as well is also pretty tempting. Again, pretty decent fixtures away to Wolves, who didn't look the best against against Leeds last weekend. Then Brentford at home, Arsenal away, which, you know, yeah, okay, fair enough, could be a bit of a tough game, but still not the highest ownership as well, only 13.4%. A price rise now from 6.5 to 6.6 million, but that formed 13 points in that opening game, scoring 2 goals. If they get a penalty, you can obviously back on him to be taking those penalties as well. He's a very, very good target man striker. Wolves have just lost Connor Cody as well, so could be having a few more defensive issues. He could be a good player to go for at a pretty cheap price. And then of course Haaland, you know, 13 points in that opening game of the season, and now he makes his home debut at home to Bournemouth. And again, another thing you have to take into consideration is don't just pay attention to the next game, also look a little bit further than that. They've got Newcastle away, which won't be the easiest of games, but still a game that you'd fancy City to play well in. And then after that, game week 4, Palace at home. And then game week 5, to finish off the month of August, Nottingham Forest at home. So Haaland might not just be someone you want in your team for this weekend. He could be someone that you want in your team for a very, very long time. That ownership is going in. Over 700,000 people have already put him into their team for this upcoming game. They've already transferred him in. He's got that price rise to 11.6 million. Again, just like Salah, he's not someone that you just want in your team. He's also someone that you're going to be seriously looking to potentially captain and maybe even triple captain him for that game against Bournemouth. But there we go, guys. There is my point predictor for the game week 2. Let's see how we can, you know, do in terms of the points. Will all these players get some form of return, whether it be clean sheets or attacking returns? We'll have to revisit that over the next week. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you guys later.